If you want to play chords on the guitar, major chords, minor chords, really anything, in any key and in any position on the fretboard, there's a special pattern you can follow, and it's actually pretty simple. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how this pattern works on the guitar, why it's so useful, and how to apply it in your own playing. And by the end, you'll have a very clear sense of how to move around the fretboard to play chords and progressions within a key, or even how to change keys on the fly. So if you've ever felt stuck playing very basic chords on the guitar, this is going to unlock the entire fretboard for you. We're going to look at something called caged chords as a heads up, but then we're going to move beyond that to look at patterns that people don't really talk about. So to explain, when you first start out on the guitar, most people begin by learning the most common chords, also called open chords, up here at the top of the neck. They're called open chords because you don't press notes on every string that you strum. Some of the strings are open, hence the name open chords. For example, this C major chord, made of notes C, E, and G, is an open chord because two of the strings, this open G string and this open E string, are strummed without pressing any note. E and G are part of the chord, so to play C major, we press some of the notes, this low C note, this E note, and this high C note, while we leave these strings open. This open C chord is super common because it's easy to play since you only have to press notes on 3 of the strings while the open strings take care of themselves. And the same idea applies to the other open chords as well. 5 major chords in total, which include, again, C major, then A major, made from notes A, C sharp, and E, where this A note and this E note are strummed as open strings, and G major with notes G, B, and D, where all 3 of these notes are strummed as open strings, then E major, made from notes E, G sharp, and B, with these E notes and this B played as open strings, and finally D major with notes D, F sharp, and A, where the D note is played as an open string. Together, these basic open chords, or cowboy chords as they're often called, make up the full set of options for many people. Like, this is what they know. Limited to the open chords up here on the neck, leaving everything up here past the 3rd fret as unexplored territory. Now, if that's you, that's totally fine. Or even if you know how to play chords up here using a capo or barred chords, but it's not yet clear how the various chords are related, that is what we're going to look at here, so that you understand the underlying logic, the music theory that explains everything. And it's all based on a simple pattern. So to explain, let's take the open C chord we played before with notes C, E, and G, and notice how these same 3 notes are found in different positions on the fretboard. And as a result, this means that we can play the same chord, C major, just combining notes C, E, and G in any of these shapes, like this, 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 or this. Guitarists call these caged chords because each shape is the same as one of the open chords. This C major chord is the open C, so it's the open C shape. This C major chord is the same as the open A shape. This C is the open G shape. This C is the open E shape. And this one is the same as the open D shape. So C, A, G, E, D. These C major chords are all played in the shapes of the open chords. I explained caged chords in more detail in another video, but you get the idea. The open chord shapes, the basic cowboy chords, allow you to play not only a few chords at the top of the guitar neck, but also further up the fretboard. And the same pattern applies to every major chord in music, whether it's C sharp, D, D sharp, E, and so on. Which is cool and handy because with only a few chord shapes, you can play chords in any position on the strings. But what's really nice about these patterns is that they also show you how to play any type of chord as well. So not just major chords, but also minor chords, diminished chords, etc. And it reveals, this pattern shows how to move between the chords within a given key in any of the keys, in all 12 keys. So looking at the C major chord again, for example, with notes C, E, and G, in the key of C, this chord is just one of 7, which are C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. Played in sequence, these 7 chords in the key of C, they sound a lot like the C major scale. And that's because all 7 of these chords are actually derived from that scale. The C major scale includes notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and it sounds nice alone as a scale, the fundamental pattern in the key of C. But what's cool is that this same scale also serves as the source pattern for all of the chords in this key, which are formed by starting on each respective scale degree and then combining every other note, which again results in the 7 chords of C major, notes C, E, and G, D minor, notes D, F, and A, E minor, E, G, B, F major, F, A, C, G major, G, B, D, A minor, A, C, E, and B diminished, B, D, and F. Now on the guitar fretboard, we can play all of these chords, or almost all of them, as open cowboy chords. And if you just restricted yourself to these few frets, you'd be fine, because you can play and create all sorts of cool chord progressions with them. But using the underlying scale pattern of notes used to form these harmonies, and the power of caged chords, it's easy to find these same 7 chords anywhere up and down the fretboard. To explain, if we highlight the 7 notes in the key of C, focusing only on these top 4 frets, we get C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Again, this is the C major scale, which is the most fundamental pattern in the key. And to play each chord in this key, you just combine every other note from the scale to make C major, notes C, E, and G, D minor, notes D, F, A, E minor, E, G, B, F major, F, A, C, G major, G, B, D, A minor, A, C, E, and B diminished, B, D, and F. The shape of each chord is informed by the underlying scale, the pattern of notes in the C major scale in our example, which is the source of the 7 chords in this key. So just by staying within these few frets, by seeing the scale pattern of notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, you can quickly pick out the chords in this key, not only finding the notes, but also understanding why you're combining these particular notes into chords, which is helpful. But to expand beyond this area further up the fretboard, it's just a matter of extending these patterns further up the frets, and the same predictable patterns apply. First, let's continue highlighting the 7 notes of the C major scale, and it looks like this: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. This is all just the same C major scale as before, but repeated across the strings and frets in different octaves. So for example, we could play the C major scale down here, or up here, or up here, etc. And it's all the same notes, the same pattern of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And because each chord is built by combining different notes in this pattern, we can plot the various chord shapes for each one as we go. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. The notes of the underlying scale pattern extend all the way up the fretboard, so the chords that arise from the scale rise up the fretboard too. And what's cool is that the shapes of each chord in a key, they all follow the caged pattern. It doesn't matter whether they're major, minor, diminished, or whatever really. The C major chords, as you already know, are arranged in a C, A, G, E, D sequence, where each shape is the same as one of the open chords. And the D minor chord also follows this pattern, but starting on D. The open D minor chord is basically the same as the open D major chord, though instead of notes D, F sharp, and A, as in D major, D minor is made from notes D, F, and A. And it's an F because, again, this D minor chord comes from the underlying C major scale, which has an F note, not an F sharp. And then continuing up the fretboard with these D minor chords, the C, A, G, E, D sequence unfolds. This D minor chord is in the open C shape, but with a minor third, so in this case F, which is why the chord looks like this. This D minor chord is in the A shape, but again with a minor third to play this F note. This D minor chord is in a G shape with a minor third, F. And this D minor chord is in an E shape, or really the shape of an E minor chord. Each of these D minor chords rise up the fretboard in the familiar caged pattern, but starting in the D position, and with each chord playing a minor third, F, since F is part of the underlying scale. So both the C major chord and the D minor chord follow the caged pattern up the fretboard because both of these chords are built from major scale notes, and the same is also true for all of the other chords in this key. Again, in our example of the key of C major, based on the C major scale. You can play an E minor chord in any position on the fretboard, built from notes E, G, and B, where the various shapes of this chord are derived from the underlying scale, and these shapes follow the predictable caged sequence, starting on E. Likewise, all of the F major chords, the fourth chord in the key of C, they're also laid out in the same way, as are G major, all the shapes of A minor, and B diminished. And once you can see all of these chords, how they're formed, how they're laid out, and how they're all related through a shared source scale, you can navigate the fretboard to play chords in any position within this key. But of course, it doesn't just work in one key, in the key of C that we've been looking at here. Since all keys in music, all 12 keys follow the same patterns, this framework of scales and chords is consistent from one key to the next. So you can easily move between chord positions in the key of G as well, for example, and the key of D and A, etc. It's cool. Using these patterns, the power of music theory, you can easily venture beyond the limited zone of open chords. Like a real cowboy, you can roam freely across the entire range of the fretboard. And in the community, I've posted all of these diagrams for you to explore at your own pace. So hopefully this was helpful. Please let the algorithm know if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next video.